1.
Part of this course is supposed to be oriented towards engineering and medical. And one of the things in the real world is data is often noisy. So what we're going to do is use the power of a spreadsheet to create simulated noisy data. So we're going to make a chart. Being lazy here, I better put meters. I better fix my time to include units. Seconds. And we're going to start some really low values in time. Let's start taking in time at 0.5 second intervals. We're going to do a lot of data. So I'm going to go like this, select both, and then I'm going to scroll down, holding the left key, all the way, let's get us 50 data points. There, it's increased by that. And the same thing, we're going to do a square, so we get perfect accelerated distance data. So equals A2 times A2, not the X key, the asterisk. And if our formula is correct, when I left click and I start scrolling down my mouse wheel, we get to that and we get our squared data. And we can double check. 10 times 10, yeah, that's 100. 9 times 9, 81. Perfect. The formula worked. Now, I want to randomize some of this data. So,
Silveri or Mr. Smith, please contact extension 212. Mr. Silveri or Mr. Smith, extension 212, please.
And what we're going to do is add a random function here. We're going to randomize the number a little bit. Now, a number times 1 is 100% of the number. A number times 1.2 would be 120%. A number times 0.8 would be 80% of a number. So I want us to swing our values by an error rate of 20% either side random. So how do we do that? We'll go insert. Okay. I'm looking for function. There it is there. It's also over here on the summation button. It's going to be a math function. We go down here and we look. And there it is. Random between. I click on it and it gives you some, what is the low and the high number we want. And I just said we want 80%, okay, comma, up to 1.2. And that will give me my random number. But it's not just a random number. It has to be operating on the time. I want to randomize these numbers a bit. So I want 1 second to appear as maybe as low as 0.8, as high as 1.2. So I got to put in, watch right here, times A2. It equals, and of course it's going to say 0. But if I scroll down now, left click, and I go all the way down, the numbers come in, but they haven't changed. They're the same. So what did I do wrong? Let's click here. I got random between 0.8 and 1.2 times A2, and the next cell, 0.8 to 1.2. Geez, it hasn't really done anything. So what are we doing wrong on the random number? So when something like this happens, you just go back and try again. I'm going to do insert, function, math, random number between, and I'm going to pick 0.8, 1.2. And it gives me 1. So there's the function, and I'm going to copy it several times. It's only giving me 1. I'm puzzled. What's going on here? Let's get rid of that. Totally get rid of that. There's something not going right with this function. What did I do wrong? Let's go back. Insert, function, math. There it is, random between. Let's take a good look at this. Returns a uniformly random integer between two values. We can't do 0.8 to thing. We could do 80%, 80, and 120. That should work. So if I do that and I times it by A2, I get 0. Let's see. Now what happens? It did it. It's randomized numbers, but it's also made them 100 times bigger. So what could I do to this formula to make this the equivalent of 0.8 divide by 100? So let me undo this, and I'll go in here to the formula, and I'll see if I can go to the end of my formula and add in divide by 100. It equals. Now we'll see if it worked. Yeah. Bingo! Look at that. 6.63, 6.5. I've succeeded in making it produce random changes on these numbers by 20%. So that's simulating what we're doing. Now, here's another beauty part of this is, do I have to retype that formula? No, because we're applying the same formula to both of these. So watch. If I go this way, it's now saying B2. So when I went that way, I can now go down here. If the formula is being applied in the next cell and you paste it over, it changes the numbers there. So if I click on this cell now, it's telling me that I'm taking the contents of B50 and doing that. So if you paste formulas this way, their values will update this way. If you paste the formula down a cell, its reference the reference number will go down each line. So now I've created a random number set for these two. So let's compare. I'm going to go down here on the original data, and I'm going to go insert chart. There's the perfect data. Okay. Now I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to go to this data and go down, and I'm going to do insert chart. There we go. Except it's gone ahead and broken the lines. It's just completely random what it does. So we're going to have to go, I can try line chart here. Nope. Let's go down to a scattergram. There. But you see what it's done? It's gone ahead and made it into two separate plots. So the next part we're going to have to try to figure out is why sometimes the graphs do this. But maybe since this graph worked, what happens if I did Control-C to copy and I did Control-V to paste? Can I make a copy of the graph? I don't know. Let's see. Doesn't seem to be. So we now have to try to figure out how to get an XY plot of the randomized data to have a simulated noise level in the experiment. And that's what I'll do next.